Have you ever finished an illustration and felt like something's missing? Like your art looks a little bit flat? Let's fix this today with 3 easy techniques that will add life and dimension to your art.
Hello!
Hi, I'm Sandra Mejia and I'm here to make art feel easy and fun. Let me show you how to fix or avoid these 3 mistakes and make your art look more lively. So we have this illustration here and I'm going to show you the first way to make it look less flat. So the first thing that we're going to focus on is contrast. These colors are not very contrasting. If we look at it in black and white, we will see that there's not too many values here. The values are like the different shades of gray that you can see here. So you'll see that, for example, these two are very similar, so that they don't provide enough information for the eyes to make it look like it's a different layer or it's different objects or elements. This one is providing good contrast against this because you can clearly see the area, but you'll see that there's very little differentiation in all the contrast of the illustration. So ideally, that should look more like this. So you see that immediately that looks like more interesting. So I'm going to show you how to do that. We're going to use the curves on this illustration. So for this to work, it needs to be in just one layer. So you'll see that I have all my illustration here. It's in 4 layers. What I'm going to do is swipe to the right and choose the 4 layers and group them. And I'm going to duplicate that group. And I'm going to tap on it and flatten it. And that way I have just one layer. But if I want to go back to my original illustration, I have those layers here. I'm going to hide this one because I don't want to work with that one and I want to keep it there in case I want to modify it later. So in this one layer, I'm going to go here to adjustments and go to curves. And again, I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the grayscale image and I'm going to modify this. So if I go down here, I'll get an image that is more contrasted. See, let's turn this one on again and move this one to the side so you can see them side by side. And just that has made my illustration look less flat. Okay, so let's turn that off. And the other way that you can do this is by introducing shadows. So here I have an illustration that now has shadows. So that is definitely less flat than this one. So the way you do that is that on top of each layer, I have created a new layer. So on top of the leaves, I create a new layer. I tap on it and I select clipping mask. And what that will do is that it will paint only on top of this layer. So even if I paint here, you will only see it on top of the leaves. And there I have used my Ultimate Fill Rough watercolor brush and just a darker green color to add some shadows. And if you use a texture brush like this one, it will not only add shadows, but it will also add texture at the same time. So that's a double bonus to increase the interest of your illustration. And what you can do with those layers is you can play with these blending modes. And if you go to like linear burn, that will be a darker shadow than it was. Or color burn, it makes it more vibrant. I usually use linear burn for shadows. So I went and did that in each of the layers. I created a new layer on top and added some shadows and set it to linear burn. And that way I have made my illustration less flat. And the third way that you can create more interest is that you can add details. So I have added a new layer on top of everything. And just with my brush, I have created some lines, some decorations, and that has transformed the way my illustration looks. So I go from something very flat, that can totally be your art style, to something very painterly, which is my style, and maybe it's your style also. So the way I drew the details is, it's just very simple lines that I drew with lighter colors than the background. And then I simply tapped here and I use linear light as my blending mode. And see, I'm going to put it in normal so you see how they looked before I changed the blending mode. So they don't look so vibrant, but when I made them linear light, they really pop. So not just adding details, but also changing the blending modes can transform your artwork. And finally, and probably the best way to start making your illustrations less flat is from the beginning. So I'm going to show you the color palette. This is the color palette that we used for this illustration. But if we had started with more options in our colors, then we would probably have created a less flat illustration from the start, so we wouldn't have to be doing edits later. So a very easy way to do this is take that base color palette you have, and I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to move it here. I'm going to place it here, and then I'm going to duplicate that again, and move it to the bottom, and then duplicate that again, and move it to the top. And in that layer, I'm going to go to Adjustments, Hue, Saturation, Brightness, and I'm going to make it brighter so they are lighter colors, but because they're too saturated now, I'm going to reduce the saturation. And tap here. And now I'm going to go to this other layer, which I think is this one. Yes, it is. And I'm going to do the same thing, Hue, Saturation, Brightness, but I'm going to reduce the brightness now. And again, they're too saturated, so I'm going to reduce the saturation. And tap here. And this way, I end up with a color palette that's way more interesting and will provide options to add highlights and shadows within the same color palette, and you did it in 3 seconds. So I hope this helps you create art that's more interesting and has more depth, and that at the end of your illustration process, you're way happier with what you've created. So let me know in the comments if you like this, and remember to like and subscribe. I'll be posting new videos constantly, so see you soon. Bye!